Are you a beer connoisseur and you also love podcasts? Then check out 1000 Years of Beer. It's brought to you by the world's oldest brewery, Wine Stefan. This podcast talks about the science, taste, sensory, and also snackable content like food pairing. This means that everyone interested in beer should find an episode that they like. They're also well known for their wheat beer, as much as their lagers. Again, the podcast is called 1000 Years of Beer. They already have 4 seasons full of episodes. Some of their latest episodes include their favorite beer, some unforgivable mistakes, quality and sustainability in the brewery's focus, as well as Bach beer season. If you don't know what that is, you will when you check out episode 2 of season 4. Again, 1000 Years of Beer is the name of the podcast. You can check it out on Spotify. Have some fun, be entertained, and also learn a thing or two. Check out 1000 Years of Beer.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. It is Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. Tomorrow's March, guys. Unbelievable. March is upon us. The winter, if you're up here in the northern half of the United States, it's got its days numbered is what I meant to say, and we are headed towards spring. That means WrestleMania, that means baseball for those baseball fans out there that care, or well, even if you don't, it's a sign of the warmer weather that's coming. So things are looking up. If you don't like winter and you're ready for sports to start again, sports that people actually watch, right? I'm not talking about just college basketball that some of you may get into March Madness, but outside of that, you don't watch college basketball at all. So anyway, let's talk about wrestling. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to our latest patron at patreon.com/WWE Podcast. And that's from Dan B. Dan, thank you for joining us. You can join Dan and the rest of our WWE Podcast family over at patreon.com/WWE Podcast if you want ad-free. Or Apple Podcasts is ad-free as well with a 1-week free trial. Okay, let's do it. Let's talk about Monday Night Raw. Raw that, I'm not going to lie to you, felt the most Vince McMahon-ish that I've felt a Monday Night Raw in a long time. Between the humor, or at least attempts at humor, the matches that are booked for WrestleMania, it feels very Vince. It feels the most Vince since Vince left. Now, what does that tell me? What does that tell us? Does that mean Vince is in charge? Does that mean that Triple H is thinking along the lines of Vince McMahon, or he just happens to book the way similarly that Vince did? I don't know. But with all the rumors that were floating about a month and a half ago of Saudi Arabia, more than that, 2 months ago, purchasing WWE, Vince is back on the board, he's back in creative, and then everything went silent, if you noticed. You notice everything just kind of stopped with the news cycle? Everything just came to a halt. Do you think that's maybe by design? Around WrestleMania season, they said, guys, we are going to freeze. Everyone in place, freeze, or at least don't leak anything. Nothing goes out. Things may be still changing behind the scenes. But right now, everything is as far as the public knows. And weird that it happens around WrestleMania season, their most lucrative part of the year. I'm just saying. The news cycles just magically stopped all this chaos just as WrestleMania season was about to get underway. Could be coincidence. I prefer to not say it's coincidence because I like a good scandal. And that comes down to the ultimate question for me of, is Vince in charge? Again, this Raw, and really others leading up to this, and even SmackDown to some degree, felt a little Vincey, if that's a thing. But this one in particular did, and we'll get into the reasons why in a minute. But, I would say, gun to my head, I would say, yes, Vince had some influence on this Monday Night Raw. That's purely my speculation. Again, I'm not trying to start rumors. I'm not trying to say I've heard anything different, that Triple H isn't in charge. It's really Vince. This is me with my own brain, just using some common sense. That's all. It doesn't mean it's fact. This is just what I have come up with, that Vince, I think, is in charge to some degree backstage, and they're not letting it out publicly because of the chaos that would ensue from the public, and they don't want chaos during WrestleMania season. They want to look like all's well, when all obviously is certainly not well. I just don't, I don't trust how everything just went radio silence conveniently right before WrestleMania season. But all right, enough of my circling my tail here. Let's dive into the Monday Night Raw review here. And we had Jimmy Uso and Solo make their entrance. Jimmy started by telling the crowd that the Bloodline is now in your city. Jimmy said he knows people think there are cracks in the Bloodline. He said it may look that way from the outside, but family fights all the time. And then a Sammy chant broke out. Jimmy said that if you come for one member of the Bloodline, you come for all members of the Bloodline. He asked if Kevin Owens got one on the Bloodline at the Rumble, then asked if the fans thought Sammy did at Chamber. Jimmy brought up Cody Rhodes, which triggered some Cody chants. And then Jimmy asked the fans if they think Cody will get one on Roman at Mania. Fans cheered, but Jimmy said hell no. However, he said Reigns will be on SmackDown this Friday, and said that he and Solo Sikoa were there to remind everyone who runs the show. So, again, this intro to Monday Night Raw, nothing really progressing, so to speak, in the Bloodline story, at least in this particular segment. To me, it was just kind of status quo. With no Roman, the Jimmy thing did not progress, and it's still, Sammy seems to be very, very popular with the fans at this moment. So, all right. So what happened next? Well, we then got the Street Profits. Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins made their entrance. They talked about how Jay got a 90 in the new video game 2K23. And then he wondered where Jay was. Ford said he couldn't blame Jay for not being there because he's tired if he was the bridge that kept the Bloodline together. They tried to make some reference to someone that I have no idea who. And I actually thought it was not a good segment for Montez and Angelo as the Street Profits. Again, I'm ready for Montez to break out in his own singles career too, but that's clearly a post-Mania plan, I would hope. And getting him through Mania as a tag team is fine with me. There's still some tread left on the tires of the Street Profits, no doubt. But this beginning was bad. The crowd was not into the jokes that Montez Ford was trying to make. And as good as Montez is, and I have been on his side, rooting him on. I've said he's a future world champion for over a year now, as others have too. I'm not some revolutionary, but this one was not a good segment. It was largely forgettable, I have to say. Largely forgettable. One that I'm gonna just pretend didn't happen. The crowd did not connect to this, the kind of humorous attempts up until they started actually fighting. And when Roman's name came, Jimmy told them to keep Roman's name out of their mouths and said, yeah, you know what, we're here we want the smoke. And then they started fighting. So yeah, I mean, again, not the hottest way to open Raw, but not awful, just easily forgettable. We then got a match with the Street Profits and Jimmy and Solo Sikoa. And the match was, it was fine. It was 11 minutes and change, and it allowed Ford to have some nice moments. But ultimately, it was Solo Sikoa taking out Dawkins with the Samoan spike and getting the victory. So after this, Sikoa wrapped a chair around the head of Montez Ford and then went to the opposite side of the ring and tried to, or was about to presumably snapped the neck of Montez Ford, but Kevin Owens came out, super kicked him. Jimmy came in. Owens hit him with a stunner and then ran. Again, I thought it was a fun matchup here with the Street Profits and the Bloodline. They're a nice kind of hold me over, I think, until Mania. But the most important part of this was, I think, Kevin Owens continuing to agitate the Bloodline. He says it's his mission. He doesn't want any help. And that Kevin Owens is far from done. He said he's just beginning with the Bloodline. He's just getting started, I believe, is what he said. So, fine. You know, Kevin Owens continues to live up to exactly what he said he wants to do with the Bloodline. Take them down. He said that's his mission. So good. He's following that mission. All right. Then we get broadcast team set up footage from last week with MVP challenging Brock Lesnar to face Omos at WrestleMania, or according to Brock Lesnar, Omos. He said it's almost like he's pronouncing it almost, except Omos. We'll get to that. Just a really, I gotta say, the segment with Brock and MVP. If you're looking for positivity and the power of that positivity, you may want to skip over my review of the segment with MVP and Brock. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. But Patrick set up a Creed 3 sponsor clip, and then Brock came out. Okay, here we go. We had the MVP lounge. Brock comes out in his cowboy outfit. Still not a fan of this. I know some of you love it. It adds depth to his character. He feels more loose and more like he's having fun. I don't want to feel like Brock's having fun. I want to feel like Brock's miserable to be there, and he's just pissed off and he wants to beat somebody up. I know that some people look at the fun-loving Brock and the loosening of Brock as a positive. I look at it as a negative, because I've had long enough to see this version of Brock now. I don't like it. It's one that doesn't take things seriously. He detracts from promos, and he detracts from the excitement of the match that otherwise could be exciting. He did that with all three of Bobby Lashley's matches he had with them. And this was really bad. Again, maybe I should rephrase it. This wasn't my cup of tea. Okay. I don't drink tea. I don't know a lot of people that drink tea, honestly. Okay. How about this? Wasn't my cup of coffee. More of us drink coffee, I think, than tea in the United States anyway. And Brock came out, and MVP walked on the stage, and Lesnar was mocking him and basically assured him, don't worry, you can come in. I'm not going to suplex you. Brock apologized. He invited him in again, and Lesnar said he had no beef with MVP and he's all about business. And then Lesnar said he was there to listen to MVP sell him and the people on a fight. Interesting. I love how you called it a fight. I got to give the language there some credit, the language choice, the vocabulary, some credit from Brock. He didn't call it a match. He called it a fight. That makes it feel more important and more credible coming from Brock Lesnar. But MVP asked if they could just talk business and he wouldn't have to worry about going to Suplex City. Lesnar said there will be no suplexes, and the crowd did not like it. But MVP took Lesnar at his word, came in the ring. All right. Lesnar brought up the fact that MVP called him a coward last week and said that he wasn't insulted. Lesnar told MVP to hype the fight. MVP stood up and ended up saying how any normal man would be put down by Brock Lesnar, would be, take an F5 and wouldn't get up. But he said he said that Brock couldn't do that to anybody. And he could do that to anybody, but not Omos. And Lesnar said he did a good job and he had goosebumps, and Lesnar got MVP to actually give him a high five. From there, Lesnar actually accepted the challenge to face Omos, according to Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. Maybe Brock is doing this genuinely because he doesn't know how it's pronounced, but I think we finally landed on Omos. The problem is that it's spelled like it would be pronounced Omos. So, again, I think we finally, after like many months of deliberating which one it is, because even WWE went back and forth with the pronunciation, I thought we finally landed on Omos, but I think Brock Lesnar is bringing us back to the Dark Ages and deciding, maybe either I can't pronounce it, I don't want to pronounce it that way, or I'm just having fun. And he chose whatever reason for that. The ultimate result is it's almost whatever. I think I'm making more of a big deal of it than it is, but I'm sorry, when you can't pronounce your opponent's name, it's not a good look and feel for the match. So Lesnar did accept the challenge to face Omos at WrestleMania and says they would shake on it and drink on it. Lesnar put his arm around MVP, and then MVP said, hey, you want some champagne? Lesnar said he wants the good stuff. He pulled a flask out of his jean jacket, or jean vest, rather, and took a swig from the flask, and he eventually convinced MVP to do the same, and MVP took a swig and then ended up spitting it out on Brock Lesnar. It was white lightning, as Brock called it. And then a "you effed up" chant broke out from the crowd, which is hilarious. And MVP apologized, but of course, you know what's going to happen here, and it left MVP with an F5. I'm sorry. This does not make me, and this makes me less excited for Omos and Brock. And it's the exact narrative that we all thought was going to happen. It's the only one you can tell. So I'm not faulting them for that. When you go into a cold match with Brock and with Omos, the only story to tell is, can Brock get him up for an F5? Can Brock give him a German suplex? The answer to both of those is of course. Of course. And it's going to just be fun to see that play out. That's the only storyline. And it's kind of sad that Brock Lesnar, one of the greatest of all time, a 20-year veteran in the business, took some time, yes, for UFC, but debuted in 2002, was, in the infamous 2002 OVW wrestling class with John Cena and Batista and Randy Orton. NCAA champion, could have been an Olympian if he wanted to. Went into UFC, dominated in that in his genre there, became the heavyweight champion in UFC, returns to WWE, main events, WrestleMania, all these things. And now he's relegated to cold matches that we're supposed to care about 4 weeks out. And the narrative is, well, can Brock get him up? Can Brock F5 him? That's the narrative. Like, how thin is the depth of this story? I mean, at least with Gunther, there's something there, and Gunther and Brock Lesnar absolutely would have been a hell of a more fun fight. I don't know what they're saving that for. I feel as if almost, I didn't say almost, I said almost, see how close that word is, that they're looking ahead to WrestleMania 40. And I don't think they are, but maybe there's been conversations where they've said, yeah, I know we aren't going to give them Brock versus Gunther, and we're not going to give them The Rock versus Roman. We'll save that for Philly at WrestleMania 40. Or they're saying, I don't know what it is. Obviously, The Rock's schedule is a big factor, and really the only factor that kept him from not competing with Roman. And, Gunther and Brock, how that didn't happen. And now we get Lashley and Bray Wyatt. I mean, you really couldn't have drawn up, I'm sorry, a more boring card when it comes to those three matches. And so I can feel the negative reviews coming on Apple Podcasts for the, he doesn't understand the product, he doesn't like the product. Whatever. I really, if you want to leave a negative review, you go ahead and do that, because honestly, it helps us anyway. So, do it to your heart's content. But I'm speaking the truth here. I'm speaking from the heart, and I really have no apologies about what I'm going to say here. This WrestleMania doesn't feel exciting at all. And again, we are 4 weeks out and change from WrestleMania. Okay. There is still time. Not a lot, but some. And I don't know if maybe it's because we've been conditioned as fans over the last 15 years to expect legacy star matches, right? Stone Cold returns last year for the first time, has a match with Kevin Owens, or at least he shows up or whatever. And I think he may show up this year too, and I'll get to that and how that could happen later in the show. I think they gave some hints. But we got Cody Rhodes and Reigns, which some of you may be really excited for. Again, I'm not super excited for that. It should have been Sammy. Been there, done that. I've talked to that ad nauseum. That doesn't really excite me too much. We've got Omos and Brock, a cold match that people are looking at going, okay, this is like a B-level pay-per-view matchup, not WrestleMania. It's Gunther, Brock. What the hell's going on? Or at least Bray and Brock. But instead, they went with the most boring combination of Bray and Bobby, with Bobby Lashley doing some very poor acting on top of it. Bobby Lashley is not convincing on the microphone almost ever, which is also being exposed over the last several weeks. He's not had a good string of promos. He feels unconvincing. I don't know. Bobby Lashley, for all his talents in the ring, on the microphone is just doesn't match his in-ring ability, that's for sure. So they've given us 3 matches that are cold, that we're supposed to just care about. And I mean, what's left? I would imagine the women's tag team champions of, well, now we know, Lita and Becky Lynch are probably going to go against the team of Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. I would imagine that's at least 2 of the teams. Maybe it's one-on-one with those 2 teams, but if they're going to bring in other teams, I mean, you could do that as well, and I think they will. So, I don't know. I just, overall, my feeling here as I take a pause on the Raw review, I just feel uninspired about this year's WrestleMania. So, it feels just ho-hum. And it is partly because the legacy star is missing. Eventually, that has to go away. We can't rely on that, and I totally understand that. But it's more of just the pairings they've chosen couldn't be more head-scratching. So, all right. Well, on that very positive note, we're going to take a break for a little bit of love for the sponsor of today's episode, and then we'll be right back with more, hopefully positive, things to say about Monday Night Raw right after this. Are you a beer connoisseur and you also love podcasts? Then check out 1,000 Years of Beer. It's brought to you by the world's oldest brewery, Wine Stefan. This podcast talks about the science, taste, sensory, and also snackable content like food pairing. This means that everyone interested in beer should find an episode that they like. They're also well known for their wheat beer, as much as their lagers. Again, the podcast is called 1,000 Years of Beer. They already have 4 seasons full of episodes. Some of their latest episodes include their favorite beer, some unforgivable mistakes, quality and sustainability in the brewery's focus, as well as Bach beer season. If you don't know what that is, you will when you check out episode 2 of season 4. Again, 1,000 Years of Beer is the name of the podcast. You can check it out on Spotify. Have some fun, be entertained, and also learn a thing or two. Check out 1,000 Years of Beer. All right, welcome back. So let's talk a little bit more about Monday Night Raw. I've already given you my spiel on my general feelings regarding the whole WrestleMania card right now for WrestleMania 39. So let's see if we can make it a little bit better here. We've got, Cody Rhodes versus Chad Gable. Now this, you would imagine if you look at this going, oh my God, yeah, of course he's going to crap on this. I'm not. Chad Gable shows you on a weekly basis how good he can be. Cody Rhodes, also very good. But Chad Gable is one of those hidden treasures that has unfortunately been, I guess, cursed in the eyes of those that run WWE with the vertically challenged disease, where they put him in gimmicks or make him have long losing streaks that are, just kind of career killers because of his height and his size when he's an actual true Olympian, which is very evident when you watch him work. And I really enjoyed this match with Cody and Chad. Now, you knew Chad was going to lose because he's lost every match in the last 6 years, but the match was competitive. It put Chad Gable in a higher level, I think. It got Cody in front of fans again, and hopefully wiping the slate clean from last week's debacle with Paul Heyman. But Otis on the outside was a bit of a distraction, and he's looking for Maxine Dupree and that kind of thing. But I really enjoyed this matchup. This was a nice, solid match. The way that Cody, or rather Chad, took the crossroads, spiking his head on the mat, man, brutal, scary, but brilliant. It was all of the above. And nothing but props for these guys. I think they went 10 minutes or so. But after the match, we got Cody on the microphone saying that he has yet to stand in the same ring as Roman Reigns. And Cody said that Reigns is on SmackDown on Friday. And then Cody said he's excited because he's going to be there too. That's good. I mean, it's about time these two come face to face in some kind of verbal altercation. It's about time. So, all right. Let's see. What else happened after that? Baron Corbin was being interviewed by Byron Saxton and talked about how things hadn't been going his way. Saxton then wrapped up the interview by pretending, well, I shouldn't say pretending, by cueing that he was getting a message through his earpiece, which Saxton then approached Kevin Owens, who said he didn't need or want any help taking down the Bloodline. This is inevitably leading to a match between Corbin and Kevin Owens next week, and probably the Bloodline coming down to beat the holy hell out of Kevin Owens, and then you're going to cheer for Sammy, and Sammy may save Kevin Owens next week. That seems to be, if I'm a betting man, what the logical steps are for next week is Kevin versus Baron, and then the Bloodline joining in 3-on-1. Where's Sammy to even the odds? And then Sammy comes out, saves KO, and KO starts to warm up a little bit more and a little bit more to the idea of reuniting with Sami Zayn. We then get a very nice video package. Unique. What do I mean by that is the Judgment Day were being interviewed, but in a video package style, going through each of their programs outside of Damian Priest, who is got no singles program, but going through Rhea's program with Charlotte and Dom, the ex-con, talking trash about his dad that we all know is leading to a match at WrestleMania. And then, of course, Finn Balor challenging Edge to a match at WrestleMania, which came out of this that we all knew was coming. We didn't get a stipulation. Many have suspected it's Hell in a Cell. There has to be some kind of stipulation on this because of how many times they face each other, and they need to have a finale. This needs to be billed as the finale, and Hell in a Cell is appropriate for these two. I'm all for it. And again, Rhea Ripley talking about Charlotte and addressing too how, and I think this little comment came from the criticism of her segment last week with Charlotte, how she never spoke to Charlotte and said that she didn't need to even say a word. So kind of saying, hey, I recognize I didn't say anything, but I didn't need to. I think that's a nice explanation. But eventually, Rhea, you're going to have some kind of promo with Charlotte. Okay. I mean, it just has to happen. You can make that excuse this week, but you get one pass. And then if you continue to not have that promo, it's going to become a problem. Okay. And what a problem for me, which is the most important problem. All right. Asuka then came out and had a match with Carmella. And I won't go through the step-by-step or the play-by-play on that, but Asuka ends up defeating Carmella as she applied her new finish for the submission victory. Asuka then took the mic after the match and yelled before calling out Bianca Belair. And then she came out and made her entrance in a non-wrestling attire and entered the ring. Belair said that she didn't like Asuka's tone when she called her out. Belair told Asuka that she's the EST of WWE, and you can't spell WrestleMania without EST. I mean, again, all these just kind of plug and play, just platitude, nothing, hollow statements. I mean, there's no other explanation or no other verbiage I can use other than just hollow. Could apply to anybody, things that sometimes Bianca Belair says. But Carmella came in, returned to the ring, and shoved Asuka into Belair. Asuka stayed down while Belair got back to her feet and looked at Carmella, who was talking smack as she backed away up the ramp. So this was fine. I think that Asuka and Bianca are going to put on a really fun match at WrestleMania. I still of the belief 4 weeks out that Asuka does not win and Bianca Belair retains. I still believe that. Of course, we'll have to wait and see how things progress if my prediction changes. But all right, let's move on. Piper Niven versus Candice LeRae. Nikki Cross was at ringside here, and this ends up with a 2.5 minute match with Candice LeRae rolled up Candice LeRae rolled up Piper Niven and got the victory. A bit of a surprise victory here because you figure it's just Piper Niven's going to get another victory. No. Candice LeRae got the surprise roll up on Piper Niven. So the crowd didn't give a damn. They were as quiet as a church mouse. But, I mean, these two aren't exactly over right now. All right, Johnny Gargano was interviewed by Byron Saxton. He said that he was proud of his wife. Gargano recalled Otis approaching him in the locker room and telling him that he wanted hot action. And that was pretty much it. Then the Judgment Day, and it was interrupted by they interrupted Gargano's interview, and Priest said he'd lay out Gargano when he saw him. He last saw him in the Elimination Chamber, and Priest said he wanted to lay out Gargano again. All right. So I guess that's going to be happening next week. But then we get the Miz TV segment, and he spoke about his wife's gift to him and said she's already given him 2 children, and that the gift is that he's going to be the host of WrestleMania. And okay. I mean, Miz's character is made for that role. Miz's character, is just one that is always the butt of the joke. He's never taken seriously as a heel, ever. And this is, I think, going to be a setup for potentially Stone Cold Steve Austin to come out and give him a stunner. And it's probably what it is. Or some legend like him. Again, if The Rock's going to be there, obviously he's not in a wrestling match. That's 100%. But it could be. And if The Rock's going to be there, let me just say this. The Rock can't come back to WWE and do something like that right now. Or again, until Roman and Rock happens, there's no other reason for The Rock to come back. So this is a setup for probably Stone Cold to come out after Miz runs his mouth as the host of WrestleMania, is being disrespected. He's the biggest star on the roster, and the glass breaks. Stone Cold comes out, and we all know it's coming. At least 3 stunners, some beer. It'll be fun, okay? It'll be just like old times. That's probably what the purpose of this is to eventually have Austin come out and stun the Miz a few times. That's my guess. Because you don't do anything else as the host of WrestleMania. What does the host even do? I know Hulk Hogan hosted WrestleMania 30, and then The Rock and Stone Cold interrupted him, and I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what the point of it is, or anyway, it's fine. It's a lot of talking segments, which is what The Miz is good at. He excels at. So, but Rollins came out and joined The Miz, and Rollins was cackling as he always does, and talking about how he stomped Miz's head into the mat 3 times last week. Rollins said he was there to congratulate The Miz, and Miz said he's not, Miz was being a bit of a B-hole, and Miz said he's not a B type of person, he's an A person. So Rollins then jumped on and said, so you're saying you're an A-hole? This kind of comedy stuff, these attempts at comedy, just like Brock Lesnar and his essentially nonchalant, just sell me on it. Sell me on wanting this match. Well, if you don't want it, how am I supposed to want it? This kind of stuff feels very Vince McMahon, does it not? These very poor attempt at comedy, sacrificing it at the altar of what could be a feud that you care about to try to be funny. And I didn't find any of it funny, except the fact that we got, and this attempt at comedy continues and implausibility continues when you have Rollins taking, after he stomped The Miz, or what did he do to him? He super kicked him and then stomped him at the very end, but takes Miz's cell phone, use the Face ID unlock. So I appreciate that little tidbit, but the sound effects were hilariously bad. All right. I don't know how was that iPhone mic'd into the arena somehow, but he ends up FaceTiming Logan Paul. Seth Rollins does, and he answers, and he said, The Miz is a little out of commission. I just want to call and see how your baby bro is doing, referring to Jake Paul losing his boxing match by, it wasn't TKO. It was, I think, referee's decision or judge's decision. I forget. I don't follow boxing that much, but Jake Paul lost his match for the first time. And so Rollins said he was sick and tired of the cat and mouse game, and he wanted Paul to show up and stand face to face with him on next week's Raw. Logan Paul accepted and said, "It's on, baby." And he said one more thing, "Bye-bye, B-word," which was funny. That might have been the line of the whole thing, but made it worth it is that was totally unexpected, but I loved it. And so, okay, we get Logan Paul and Seth Rollins. You could look to that as the potential match of the night for whatever night that's on. I mean, really, both men are that good. Both men are ultra athletic. Is the story deep? No. Are any of these stories deep on SmackDown right now or Raw? Does WWE have any storyline right now that we are confident in or has already been confirmed for WrestleMania? Any matches that you're like, man, I can't wait for the blow off? No. Edge and Finn, people were ready for that to end 4 months ago. So anyway, all right. So again, Rollins stomps the Miz as we expected. Now, Austin Theory came in and talked once again about how he felt. Well, he said that Mr. Hustle Loyalty and Respect is coming next week, but he felt he has hustled for his championship and he's been loyal to the championship, right? No one else is going to be as loyal or hustle as hard for this championship, and said that he was going to confront Cena next week, and that seems to be the direction they're going, is Cena in Theory for WrestleMania. So yeah. Bobby Lashley again came out. Okay, this is also not good. And this is another massive wink and nod to the Vince McMahon attempt at humor era. And this is Bobby Lashley after he just completely demolished Elias. I mean, Elias, what is going on? I don't even know. I mean, the crowd didn't care at all about this match. And then Lashley is walking up the ramp, and we see the Muscle Man dance video from Bray. He played this during the Firefly Funhouse match, I think with John Cena in the pandemic era 3 years ago at WrestleMania 36, I'm pretty sure. So this footage was reused, but it was basically doing some weird dance moves with Bray Wyatt and having Bobby Lashley flexing a lot. And we're all supposed to, the Muscle Man dance. It's a catchy little tune, but again, I want somebody who is not on LSD or any kind of hallucinogenic drug to explain to me how all of these pieces of Uncle Howdy, being this new version of Bray Wyatt, the meta Firefly Funhouse last week, the identity of Uncle Howdy, Alexa Bliss, where the hell has she been and what's her connection? That has been forgotten for a month. Somebody explains, and then the Muscle Man dance. Somebody come and why don't you come on over to my place? We'll have a conversation. Yeah, this is the kind of, but in all seriousness, this is the stuff that really disconnects me. And it felt very Vince McMahon-y. I mean, did it not? The Muscle Man dance, the crowd didn't laugh. They didn't cheer. They just kind of went, it was kind of a collective groan, I think. Because you're putting Bobby Lashley into a match with Bray Wyatt. Number one, why? And number two, what's the story again? I mean, this was not good. All right. So then we get Otis versus Johnny Gargano, with Johnny Gargano beating Otis in 3 minutes. To no one's surprise, because the Alpha Academy cannot buy a victory. So that's pretty much it. And then we get the main event. Dakota Kai and Io Sky versus Becky Lynch and Lita for the women's tag team titles. And the match was good. It had some nice hot tag moments. Lita is sure a little bit slower in the ring, but for her age and what she can still do, I got to give her props, no doubt about it. But the X factor here was the return of Trish Stratus to even the odds of the Damage Control team and Bayley specifically getting involved and all that kind of thing to help the Damage Control retain the belts. But with Trish Stratus coming out to a nice pop, okay, nice reaction from the crowd. It again, it evened the odds, and it, I think, created a buzz around the women's tag belts again with Lita and Becky Lynch capturing the women's tag titles. Lita gets the victory after the Lita Salt and the Twist of Fate, and fine. I don't have an issue with this because anytime they focus on the women's tag belts, I'm waiting for them to really go with it and go with it for a long period of time. But we all know after Mania, it's a place that championships or champions go to become irrelevant. I mean, this isn't me being negative on it. This is me being realistic and looking back at history and just pointing and going, look, like, show me a team past WrestleMania that won the tag belts and stayed relevant even for a month. You can't. Becky and Sasha and Bayley were the inaugural champions. Take a look at what they did after the first victory. The very first tag team champions after WrestleMania, they went to go and hide, and Sasha did her 6-month disappearing act. And what about the Iconics? When they won, they went to irrelevancy, right? Gone, poof. It's not a belt that you want to keep at WrestleMania because the tag team division goes completely MIA after Mania. You know why? Because there is no tag team division for the women. That's the most embarrassing part of this whole thing and frustrating part. So they bring in some legacy stars with Lita and Trish here. And we're all supposed to have a vested interest in this. And, I do slightly. I'm not crapping on this. I really think that this is going to be a fun, entertaining, whatever multi-person match this is, multi-team match at WrestleMania for the women's tag titles are going to be. It created a buzz. It's a nice visual. It's cool to think about the generations of wrestling and Lita being a trailblazer and the current day top female of Becky Lynch. That kind of thing is fun to see because it's things that you just never thought you would. So no problem there. When it comes to that, it's just, I don't know. I have my issues sometimes, right? All right. I think that does it for me, guys. This was a lot of fun talking about Monday Night Raw as we close out the week nearly with tomorrow being the mailbag. You can call in. The call-in number is in the description notes of all of our mailbag episodes. Or email us, mailbag@wwepodcast.com if you want to write in. Again, try to keep it, if you write in, if I can read it within 3 minutes, that's what I like. You can also call. The voicemail will automatically cut you off at 3 minutes. So that is that, guys. Consider going VIP on our website at wwepodcast.com. Everything's ad-free there. You can go to the Apple Podcast app and click on the ad-free button and get yourself a 1-week free trial. And then it's $2.99 a month or $30 for the entire year, which gives you 2 months for free. Or you can do our Patreon page at patreon.com/WWE podcast and get yourself an in-the-door membership, $1 for all of our episodes ad-free. And as you go higher, you get more stuff. So there's that too. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I really do appreciate it. I'll be back with tomorrow's mailbag. Until then, take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Are you a beer connoisseur and you also love podcasts? Then check out 1,000 Years of Beer. It's brought to you by the world's oldest brewery, Wine Stefan. This podcast talks about the science, taste, sensory, and also snackable content like food pairing. This means that everyone interested in beer should find an episode that they like. They're also well known for their wheat beer, as much as their lagers. Again, the podcast is called 1,000 Years of Beer. They already have 4 seasons full of episodes. Some of their latest episodes include their favorite beer, some unforgivable mistakes, quality and sustainability in the brewery's focus, as well as Bach beer season. If you don't know what that is, you will when you check out episode 2 of season 4. Again, 1,000 Years of Beer is the name of the podcast. You can check it out on Spotify. Have some fun, be entertained, and also learn a thing or two. Check out 1,000 Years of Beer.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.